Hello there. What is going on, everybody? We're going to be taking a look at Armada's new Rebel ship, the Providence class carrier for the Rebellion from Rapid Reinforcements 1, and trying to put a build together with this ship today, doing sort of a minimalist approach. In a lot of the games, I've had a much bigger approach to this ship, and so I wanted to try a smaller approach that's motivated a little bit by a friend of mine named Bernie, who had some pretty cool ideas on the Providence. So big shout out to Bernie here. But yeah, some pretty cool ideas on this ship, and maybe we'll give it a totally different play style than what you might expect. So yeah, we're gonna talk about this and how we're gonna use Raddus to make it work. If you guys aren't new here to the channel, I talk a lot about Star Wars Armada. I've got a great Discord and a great website to have lots of extra Armada content and community. So if you're interested in any of those, check the links down in the description below. Also, we are running our $70 Amazon gift card giveaway for a Shadow Collective starter box for Star Wars Legion. Or you could use it for whatever you want. All you have to do is enter to win that giveaway is to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. But if you have interest in Star Wars Armada, you are in the right place, because I talk a lot about this and other tabletop games, many of them with a Star Wars focus, but sometimes I talk about other games as well. So I am using Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder to build fleets, and I will do this from time to time, and I'll talk about what goes into the fleet and what my decisions are, and where this came from. So real quick, the Providence for the Rebels is very different than the Providence we've seen in other places. You know, with the Separatists, Providence is a lot more of a battleship, and this is more of an everything ship. It features two of so many upgrades, 2 support teams, 2 weapons teams, 2 offensive retrofits, and 2 officers, which is just completely unheard of, and it kind of gives you build overload. And I've certainly suffered a little bit of analysis paralysis when trying to look at this particular ship and figure out what I wanted to do with it, because it still has a great dice profile, it still has really wide side arcs. It has 2 black dice against squadrons, and it does have a slightly different defensive token option. You've got a brace, a redirect, a salvo, and an evade. Evade, of all things, on a large ship is not very common, but it still works. It still helps prevent a little bit of maybe critical dice from squadrons who are trying to attack you, especially if you get one of those B wings that rolls that double black and then something else, and you can be like, haha, make this one go. Try again, so that's always helpful. It does have 9 hull, 5 shields on the front, 3 shields on the sides, 2 on the back. Not a whole lot of maneuverability on this thing. It can only go up to speed 2 and only gets 1 yaw, so it's not really doing a whole lot with its maneuverability. But since it has double support teams, a lot of times people will put engine techs on this and allow it to really push squadrons. That's how I have run it. That's how it has been run against me, but this time we're trying something different. We are definitely going to try something different. So I'll tell you a little bit about the build. I want to kind of run this kind of bare bones. We are going to put a little bit on there, but it's going to be kind of bare bones. And because a lot of the upgrades that go in there are heavily related to positioning, and my friend Bernie mentioned wanting to use it with Raddus and drop it in, and I thought that was a great idea. So we're gonna try and do that today. What we're gonna do is we'll start off with our flagship. We're gonna use an MC-75 Profundity. The Profundity is going to potentially, a lot of times we drop in a Profundity with Raddus, but this time we're gonna put Raddus right on the Profundity. So again, Raddus is going to allow you to basically warp a ship in later in the game at any point you want, but it has to be at distance 1 to 2 of him. And the reason we're putting him on the MC-75 is because we can give it the Profundity title, which we can dock another small ship inside of it. And then, of course, when it launches, Admiral Raddus can get on board. He can actually switch which ship he's on, and he can get on the other ship that kind of takes off, kind of like the lifeboat, so to speak. And he can get on board that ship. And then you can trigger his ability, since that ship will have deployed at range of the MC-75 Profundity. Another ship will come out, he'll get on it, and then all of a sudden you can drop in our big rebel ship, our Providence carrier, at 1 to 2 of wherever Raddus is on. So if he's on another ship, and of course we are going to have another ship, so I'll put a Hammerhead torpedo corvette. out here. And so we're going to have a hammerhead, which is certainly a very, very good option to drop in with Profundity, because we can do really fun things with this hammerhead torpedo corvette. And that's kind of how the build is going to work. That's how we're going to get the Providence out there. When we put our Providence in the build, we're going to be putting upgrades on these ships, but this is what we're going to be starting with. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom and select the Providence carrier. There it is. And we're not completely done yet with ships. I'm going to have some other ships, but I'm going to start with these three, because these are kind of the crux of the build. And then I'm going to add more stuff to the build. I mean, you can certainly have a lot of different things that you want to do with it. So since I have Raddus on the MC-75, I have to keep it alive. So that means we are going to go with electronic countermeasures. That's kind of necessary, and it's important that when you run electronic countermeasures that you don't forget that you have electronic countermeasures on board the ship. If you've watched my latest Armada battle report, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But we want this ship to stay alive, and then of course we want it to be able to do a little fighting after the fact. So I'm going to put linked turbo laser towers on this one, and I'm also going to put assault proton torpedoes. And of course, it is a big, good side arc ship, and hopefully we can make sure that it's got lots of effective dice anywhere it shoots. So whether it's shooting from the front, we've got their black crits there. Whether it's shooting from the side, we've got our linked turbo lasers there. We're actually going to swap out the assault protons, though, for external racks. I feel like that's going to get me a little bit better. This way I'm a little bit more flexible, so if I can manage to get the front shot, it's extra dice. If I can get, because again, I got to be at close range, right? And if I can get the side shot with linked turbo lasers, I have the option to throw those in there. I think that's probably a little bit smarter, and that's what we're going to do. All right, so external racks was funny because like I kind of prepared this list beforehand, and then like on the spot I'm like, you know what, on second thought, you're catching, I'm throwing an audible in the middle of the build video. We're going to do that. It gives again, this makes this kind of a flexible ship. It's got the good long range, and then up close it has a lot of bite to it. We'll have a little bit of reroll dice mitigation with the linked turbo lasers, but we're going to have a little bit more, which we'll talk about a little bit later, so stay tuned. I'm not giving up just yet. When we go to the hammerhead, we're going to do kind of simple with this one. I will put Garel's Honor on here. It's just a great option to have, and I will also put external racks on this one as well, because this one may not live very long. Maybe it will. It depends. But we're going to lose a lot of points with Raddus here with Garel's Honor. If they do take out Garel's Honor, Raddus will be on there potentially. Although he doesn't have to. If the situation looks right, I don't necessarily have to transfer him over to the hammerhead. So you definitely have a little bit of flexibility, but probably going to transfer him over. Probably. And so the idea here is that the Providence doesn't, it has a lot of dice. It has a beautiful amount of dice, and it has a salvo, and it has a great, strong salvo. And we don't really need to put much on it. Like, at 95 points, it packs a punch. Like, imagine taking like a 75-point ship and putting 20 points of upgrades on it to get it to this level, right? Like, it's already got a lot of dice, a lot of survivability, a nasty counterattack. It's already tough to deal with. And so I wanted to say, how can I just put maybe just a little bit? Like, maybe I'm just going to use one of these types of upgrades and fill those out. So I decided to go with Officer in this case. Because I've done a lot of stuff with double support teams already. Double weapons teams and double offensive retrofit is okay. You can go boarding teams here, and this might be an option. This may be something you change things up. Maybe you consider going with a boarding team in this case, which is definitely a option. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to go double officer. And the first one I'm going to do is Kirsta Agate. She's really good as an officer on this particular ship, since I've got one of each type. I've already got a lot of survivability with all of my shields and my hull, so I don't need a whole lot to stay alive. But she can allow me to salvo a second time, really taking advantage of the dice and that great salvo attack. Or if I need to use her for my brace, I can do that as well and help it for staying alive. But she's really cool for that. And since I have a second officer, and I'm going to be able to put this ship wherever I want, this one seems like a good candidate for one of my favorite fun officers in here. It's Ezra Bridger. I can drop this ship down in a weird place and then activate it and then throw a rock at my opponent in addition to throwing all of these dice. And that's all I'm putting on the Providence. That's 8 points of officers, just two officers, 8 points worth of upgrades. It brings it to a 103-point ship, but that's it. Could put a lot more on there, but I'm going kind of bare bones. It's nasty up close, and I want to make sure it gets to stay nasty. And so that brings the whole build up to 302 points. So we're running out of points. I'll tell you this is not going to be a squadron heavy fleet. I'm not building this Providence as a carrier. It certainly can function as a carrier, but that's not how I'm building it, because it starts to get extremely expensive when you start putting all of these upgrades on here. And I don't want to do that. I want to try a bare bones carrier in this particular build. What I am going to do is, again, I remember I said I was going to have some extra dice mitigation. I am going to put our favorite little support here with the fleet command. We're going to put the modified Pelta class assault ship, and I'm going to have this one out there with intensify firepower on it. Great ship, great fleet-wide benefit. Really going to help out the Providence. Also really going to help out the MC-75 as well, especially with those black dice. If I roll enough of them, and I'm probably going to have at least one blank, sometimes more than that. But at least I have linked turbo lasers for some of it. And then I've got intensify firepower for another one, and that's going to be on every shot. So I think that's going to be helpful. It's also going to work wonders, absolute wonders, on the Providence, especially if I'm able to trigger Curse to Agate on the salvo, and then ready my salvo token again and be able to attack again. I think that, or in salvo again, because again, then we can get 4 attacks on the Providence, and that's 4 dice potentially changed with intensify firepower on just one ship. So really cool stuff. But of course, we also have to fuel intensify firepower. So I'm going to do this the cheapest way that I can right now, and we're just going to put CommsNet on a GR75. It's also going to allow us to stay flexible, which is always a nice thing. I like CommsNet. It's cheap. There's a lot of new fleet supports out there, but I'm just sticking with the classic. It's an oldie but a goodie. We've got a little bit of points left. I will put 2 squadrons in this build. I'm just going to go with 2 Z95 headhunters. We're going to take it real cheap right now, and this is going to bring us down to 398. 398. Not a lot of wiggle room here. Not a lot of squadron presence. We're obviously very weak on squadrons, but we do have ways to deal with squadrons. We've got a lot of strong anti-squadron flak. We've got 2 dice on the MC-75. We've got black dice here. External racks as an option there. 2 black dice here. We've got a black and a blue here. We have black dice there. We've got a lot of, every ship has at least 1 black die. So if not more stuff than that as well. And when we got linked turbo lasers and an external racks, we can take down some squadrons if we have to. But again, it's hopefully I'm able to drop the Providence in the way of the enemy carriers and cause them some pain. I think the only real weakness with a list like this is if you go up against a really heavy squadron presence that spreads out their squadrons all over the place, you might be denied room to drop in your ships. So you'll have to think about maybe dropping it in early before somebody spreads their squadrons out, to kind of create a mesh web preventing you from dropping in ships, which is always kind of one of the risks you run with Raddus. Now, let's talk about objectives a little bit. I did bring in a GR75, and so as you do with a GR75, especially one as bare bones as this, I think we can definitely put Most Wanted on there. By the way, I got 2 more points. I could put Bright Hope on this GR75. I could do that to help it stay alive a little bit, especially if it's going to be my objective ship. I think that's a reasonable thing to consider doing. But with that, we're also going to go and take advantage of Ezra being in the build a little bit. And so we're going to go with Rift Ambush for our yellow. And Rift Ambush is, of course, always a fun one to be able to throw the Rift at somebody with Ezra. It's just a game changer if you can throw that Gravity Rift in front of their fleet, and now all of a sudden they're speed 0 for the rest of the game. It's terrible and awful, and it's also amazing. We're going to do something very similar with our blue. We're going to go with Doomed Station. It's going to give us that Rift. And people are going to be afraid of any of the options, and so you very likely might end up with Most Wanted in this case. And the cool thing about that is you got a lot of ships that can throw a lot of dice, and they'll get extra dice when they're attacking that enemy flagship, and you'll probably get an extra 100 points out of it. So I think that's worth the risk. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys have fun trying it out. I'd love to hear what you guys think, though. It could be a fun list. Raddus is always fun because you know, getting to be able to pick where you warp stuff in is always a really interesting aspect to the game and makes each game different. And so I always like Raddus, and this ship is you know, we're gonna see if it can run naked, or if it has to be loaded to the gills. I think it can run pretty bare bones, and you know, we have just enough on there to give it a little extra punch for its size and capabilities. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, give me all that good feedback. Hop on, check the links in the description below. Get the AI expansion for free over at Crabbok.com. Hop over into the Discord and join the community there. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make the channel possible. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. So say we all. Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.